Welcome, everybody, to the pre-show. Thanks for joining us. We'll be starting this Network Plus study group in about 10 minutes. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. What do we got to do here? Oh, we need to change the website. Let's change it. My live Network Plus study group is happening now. Click here, join us, save those changes. And I should probably get something going on the live labs. Live labs. Got to be here somewhere. Where are they? Where are the live labs? Let's get all of this ready to go. What are we going to do? We're going to do Network Plus. There we go. I might even get, what should we do? How about network address translation? Sounds like a good one. And we'll get those servers powered on, powered on, powered on. So that'll be something. Can look at that later. All right, back to the show. Socrative is up. You should be able to get there. Socrative or ProfessorMesser.com/QA. So there's that. Okay. If you are watching this live on YouTube, you can head over to ProfessorMesser.com/live. There's a live chat there, and I can watch what's going on. It's the live event chat if you are on my website. Audio looks good. Let's do some camera work. Camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, camera 3 with me, camera 4 with me. See, it all works. Okay, we're recording here. We're recording here. You see the Cylon spinning around there. What else? I think we're good. We have a beverage. Very nice. Very nice. Oh, very good. Well, we have to fix a few things already. Nothing I can't handle. I got this one, everybody. Oh, look, I'm live. I went to YouTube and it tells me I'm live. That's fantastic. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you for telling me that I'm live. Ba 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 ba. Da 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 da. I think we're about ready. All right. Do we have the graphics set up right? That looks good. Wonder what that's about. I've got plenty to go through here. Ba 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 ba. Da da da. That's working. That's working. This is working. Very good. Okay. I think we're in good shape there. Oh, this is working. Very nice. Very nice. So what else are we going to do? What else are we going to do today? I think I'm ready to go. I think I've got everything ready. I was a little rushed getting here. The QA site, links to everything are on ProfessorMesser.com/live. QA site is ProfessorMesser.com/QA. Oddly enough. Remarkably so. Ironic. Not ironic. All right. I think this is all up and running, folks. I think we're in good shape. I think we're okay. This is I got this now, and then we're doing more recording of Security Plus tomorrow. And then there is not a Security Plus study group next week. Normally, the week after this is Security Plus, but we're skipping a week. And I'm going to do it a couple days after Christmas on the 27th. So just a little schedule change. and we'll be okay. That happens sometimes. The holidays, the end of the year, all those things. Oh, okay. We had that LCD fixed the same day. That was months ago. And I put, it's a non-Apple LCD that's on it. And to be quite honest, it's not very good. It does not have quite the same color response as the, even if after tweaking, 'cause you can tweak a lot of color on the iPhone, and it's just not that great. That's how it goes. I guess I could pay for an Apple OEM'd, but I didn't. I paid for a relatively inexpensive screen, and that was a mistake. But all I do is read mail. I read mail and look at cryptocurrency values. It's not like you need great color representation for that, right? So I barely use it. It's over there. Because I'm usually sitting here and do everything in front of me. We got about 3.5 minutes until we get started, everyone. Top of the hour. We'll get going. Even though I'm ready, you think we just start. I'm running this show. I am not running this show. You're running this show. I have to wait for you, which I'm happy to do. We hold everybody top of the hour, so that's what it's going to be. Oh, got the book in place. Got this thing. Got that thing. We're good. We're good. We're good. Welcome, chat room. Are people joining? I guess we should look and make sure that YouTube is looking okay. YouTube tells me that my stream status is good. I would prefer it said stream status is amazing. Stream status is exceptional. It just says good. It's just good. Good is the best that it gets on my stream status. Sadly. Okay. I think we're doing pretty good on time. It was a little bit of a rush before I hit the stream button, so I'm pretty happy that we're all here and things are where they're supposed to be. Except this is not the right graphic. What happened there? Let's fix a few things. What is going on in my world? There we go. And we'll save that. All right. Oh, December 8th to pass. Congratulations on passing your exam. Very nice. All right. How are we on time? We got a minute and a half. Minute and a half, Mr. Sinatra. We've got plenty of... Well, if you're looking for links, they are all on professormesser.com/live. Everything is there that you need, including links to the QA, links to everything. Links to everything I'm going to talk about. Well, pretty much everything I'm going to talk about. We will have plenty of links at professormesser.com/live. Taking yours December 22nd. I guess this is the home stretch. You got about a week or so, week or two, 10 days, 9 days to make that happen. That'll be good. This, go ahead. Do I talk about when this is changing? If it is, the unsubstantiated rumors. Yeah, I got details there. All right. Am I going to do a Windows 10 video series like I did with Windows 7? Probably not. Probably not. Sadly so. Of course, I'm ready to go live, and now I can't talk. All right. It is the top of the hour, and it is time to start this study group. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Professor Messer Network Plus Study Group for December 2017. I'll be your host for this next hour of Q&A. My name is James Messer, coming to you live from the Professor Messer headquarters here in Tallahassee, Florida. We've got Q&A for this first hour. I'm going to ask you questions about topics from the Network Plus exam, and you interactively will participate online, and a good time will be had by all. We will then shift gears. We'll end the official study group after about an hour, and then we'll open up phone lines. We'll have an after show where we can talk about whatever you'd like. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Network Plus, or it could have everything to do with Network Plus. That's completely up to you, and anything that you would like to do or talk about. It's all there. We're going to talk a lot about Network Plus today. I'm able to do this study group thanks to you. You're able to purchase the course notes that I have on my site. You're able to purchase the offline version of my videos, and you watch my free video course, which in itself actually helps quite a bit. There is every video, every minute of every video of my Network Plus is available to watch online at professormesser.com. So there's something good there. There's some choices there that you could have a look through everything. Yeah, there's nothing hidden behind a paywall. There's nothing hidden behind a registration. You don't even have to tell me anything about yourself. You just watch the videos. They're all there for you to enjoy. There are also links you should know about. ProfessorMesser.com/Twitter. It's my Twitter account. ProfessorMesser.com/YouTube will subscribe you to my YouTube channel. And if you click the little bell, you'll get a notification that will bother you every time I go live. Isn't that a delightful thing? And then, of course, don't forget that is a voucher discount on my website, ProfessorMesser.com/vouchers. You can get 10% off if you are not a student. If you are a student, and you probably want to get your vouchers from the CompTIA Academic Store because you get about a 50% discount, 50 discount. That's something that's significant and substantial. So you do want to consider, if you're a student, and you have to have an EDU email account. So if you do have an EDU email account, make sure you take advantage of that. That is a significant cost savings. So that's a pretty good deal. Don't pay full price. Regardless, do not pay full price. So you got that going on. My course is also available for download. You can purchase a version of my course for download. Everything that has the videos, you can purchase all those. If you just need the audio, you can buy the audio. And if you want my course notes, we'll talk about my course notes in a bit. I have them here. They're upside down. There they go. We'll talk about my course notes in just a bit. You can find out all about those at ProfessorMesser.com/GetNetPlus. There's also some free questions, Network Plus questions, along with other things on my site. ProfessorMesser.com/PopQuiz. I archive a number of questions from study groups, and I put them in there. So all of the latest you can find right there at ProfessorMesser.com/PopQuiz. There's also an audio version of this thing. You can, of course, go to YouTube or go to my website and watch the video replay, but a lot of people like to have an audio version to take along with them, something that can be updated automatically with their podcast listening app. And the way you get to that is ProfessorMesser.com/podcasts. Podcasts. And you, of course, can join there. You can listen from that page. You can also subscribe on that page, grab the RSS, put it into your own podcast listening device so that wherever you go, you'll always have the latest version of all of my study groups. You can choose which one you'd like, the A+, the Network Plus, or the Security Plus. Today, we're going to be doing Q&A, though. Lots of Q&A, and we're going to be using a third-party service called Socrative. Pretty awesome service because it allows me to ask questions, and then you, in real time, interactively can answer those questions online, and then we can see what everybody is doing. You can't see what you're doing. It's very private. I don't really care what you answer. I just see the roll-up of what everybody answers. You can get there by going to ProfessorMesser.com/QA. There's also a Socrative app. If you want to put the app on your app device, you can do that. You can find that app on your favorite store, and then it will ask you for a room name. That room name is Professor Messer, ProfessorMesser. So that will at least get you there. And the quick way to do it is go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA. That takes you right to the page, and you'll see the question that I have available for you in just a moment. That'll give you a chance to get there, and we'll talk about the question right after this. Because let's talk about Network Plus. Network Plus is currently, the exam for Network Plus is currently numbered the N10006 exam. This was an exam that was introduced in February the 28th, 2015. So we're getting pretty close to when we expect that to be updated to the N10007. It's really not an update right away. What CompTIA generally does is release a new version, and both versions of the exam are available for 6 to 9 months, depending on many different things that are going on, usually about 6 months. So I expect that there will be some type of announcement or expected release of a new version of the Network Plus exam, the N10007, somewhere in March. So we got a few months before we would ever see a new version, and then 6 more months before the existing version ever goes away. My point to you is, if you are studying for the existing Network Plus exam, continue your studying. You've got 9 months at least until that exam is retired. And whether you pass your N10006 exam or the N10007 exam, you get exactly the same certification. There's no difference in the certification. So take the exam where there's the most amount of study materials. Never wait to take a certification exam. Always take the current version, the one that is available. Now, if you're close to March and you're thinking, maybe I want to take the new version, you're welcome to try that. Usually you have a lot more materials available to study from because the exam that's out now has been out for about 3 years than something that's just been released. Usually it takes a number of months to get all of that new content out. So that's the important part, is the timing. Just keep checking back on the CompTIA website and you can make your own decision to be able to do that. Useful to have those things. Also be listening to this study group. Somewhere in this first hour, I'll give you a special code that you can use for 1 hour of webinar CEU if you already have one of your CompTIA certifications and you're collecting CEUs, something you may be able to use. I'll tell you at that point how you are able to contact me and earn that CEU. I have a question for you, though. Hopefully you've gone to professormesser.com/QA, or you've loaded up your Socrative app and you've gone to the Socrative website and you see a question that's waiting for you that says something decidedly non-network related, which is, which of these best describes hot chocolate beverages? And it's a multiple choice question. Which of these best describes hot chocolate beverages? And I should probably turn on my pinpoint so you can see that big yellow thing come across the screen, because the possible answers are A, created by the Mayans about 3,000 years ago. Is it B, given to every Winter Olympic participant? Suddenly there are a lot fewer of those lately. C is served to the winner of the Indianapolis 500. And D, given to the United States as part of the Louisiana Purchase. One of those is the correct answer for which of these best describes hot chocolate beverages. Maybe some of you have. I noticed that 70% of you chose A, created by the Mayans about 3,000 years ago, and then it drops off to 19%, where it's given to every Winter Olympic participant. I have a feeling somebody cheated. Somebody Wikipedia'd this one. This one was an easy one to Wikipedia, quite honestly, because the correct answer is indeed A. 67% of you that answered A did answer that. That's because hot chocolate was indeed created by the Mayans about 3,000 years ago. So, of course, I have my hot chocolate in front of me. That'll be something I take advantage of during the second hour. This is also today, December the 13th, appropriately National Cocoa Day. It's National Cocoa Day. The cocoa. This is one where we've now been able to try this question. You've been using Socrative. Everybody seems to be in there and answering the question pretty well. And those of you that did answer A did get this one right. I have no idea if it's given to Winter Olympic participants, and it's probably not given to every single one of them because somebody doesn't like chocolate. It's not served to the winner of the Indianapolis 500. Actually, milk is served to the winner of the Indianapolis 500, the car race. And then given to the United States as part of the Louisiana Purchase, I don't think it was. I kind of made that one up. We got a lot of stuff out of that Louisiana Purchase, but I don't think hot chocolate was one of them. So at least we have our National Cocoa Day. Enjoy your National Cocoa Day, everybody. Let's do a Network Plus question now. We are into it. One of the things you'll notice, by the way, on the Network Plus exam is that you don't get multiple choice questions right out of the gate. CompTIA front loads the exam with a number of questions that are anything but multiple choice. They call these performance-based questions. These are questions that could be fill in the blank. They could put you at a command prompt and ask you to perform a particular command. They might ask you to match things. They might ask you to put things in order. They might ask a number of different types of questions, and you have to now finish the question. I usually even recommend that people jump over those questions initially, go through all the multiple choice, and then come back to them because they can be time consuming. So that's something you may want to think about with your strategy for taking your exam. That's one of the advantages you have on the CompTIA exams is you can jump to any question at any time, unlike other certification exams you may have taken where you can't go back. Once you answer the question, that's it. You're locked in. It's not that way with CompTIA. You can bounce around the exam as much as you like. So I have a performance-based question for you right out of the gate. This one will be kind of a matching question. And the question is, match the interface to the name. This is sort of a fill in the blank, if you will, online. I've got, it's difficult if you're listening on the podcast. This won't be very useful to you because this is a visual question. But I've got 6 connectors on the screen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I have 6 different descriptions of connectors: an RJ45, BNC, SC, F connector, LC, and an MTRJ. Those are the 6 connectors. So if you think these are already matched up, you could put into Socrative 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E, 6F. They are not, by the way. That wasn't set up that way. Of course, they would not be that easy. One of these times I should just do one that's like that. But this is not one of those times. That is my big hint for you, is it is not that way. Not 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of those that you have to go through and answer some of those. Some of you are getting the answers in now. Connectors is a big part of the exam. There's some very visual parts of the exam, and there's different kinds of connectors, both copper and fiber, and I mixed up both the copper and the fiber in this question, so you really have to go through. Now, remember what your answer is. I think most of you will when we go through what each one of these and trying to figure out the details. There is a lot of connector questions on the exam. Now, for each of these, this is really a very basic question because I'm asking you more for recognizing what these particular interfaces are. But you should also know what these interfaces are used for, perhaps more importantly. This question really doesn't go into that level of detail. Others we're going to get today certainly will, but this one does not. This one's more of a, can I recognize what I'm looking at? Which, by the way, will be your default mode whenever you're in a data center, is you're looking at the back of a server and wondering what in the world is on the back of the server? What in the world's on that piece of equipment? What is that interface? This will be a constant thing for you with networking. Now, we've got a number of answers in, so let's see how we did. We'll step through these one at a time, where we can match the interface to the name. So let's take the very first one, which is, I don't have my pinpoint on right now. I'm going to flip back over to me for a moment so that I can turn my pinpoint on so you can see what I'm doing. That's the yellow thing on the screen that brings up the graphic. So you can see when I move around the screen, there we go, the yellow. So we got this first connector, this purple one with the little round connector. Anybody care to take a guess what that number 1 was? It was a BNC. So if you answer 1B, BNC, you got that one right. Well done with that. Let's do a different one. Let's do the next one over. You've got 2. 2 is F, an MTRJ. That is indeed an MTRJ connector. Nice little fiber connector that allows you to plug in and take up not so much room on the screen when you're working with it on the screen, but on the device. MTRJ, it's one of the reasons they went with MTRJ on a number of devices because you can squeeze a lot more interfaces into a much smaller place. And when you're dealing with devices like that, that's a pretty important thing, is that real estate. Number 3, an RJ45. That should be relatively straightforward for most of you. And I'm looking at the answers that came through, and most of you got the RJ45 pretty well. The next one down. So let's look at this blue one with the yellow cable. That is a fiber connector. It's an SC connector, the oldest kind of fiber connectors we are used to seeing in data centers. So if you answered 4C, SC, you got that one right. The next one through is this silver and black connector. That question number 5, that interface number 5 is D, the F connector. The F connector. And the last one is number 6, and that's the only one that's left, which is E, an LC connector. LC connector for those. So you've got quite a mix there of both copper and fiber in this question. And as I mentioned, when you get into a data center and you have to determine how do I plug into this device, what type of fiber patch do I need, then you're going to have to call it out. Oh, I need an LC connector. Oh, this one has SC. And has SC on this side and it has LC on that side. So give me a patch, fiber patch that has SC on this side, LC on this side. It's about 20 meters long or whatever it happens to be. If you don't have it, you're going to need to order it or convert it. A little bit more of a pain. When you get into a fiber situation, there's so many different devices with so many different fiber interfaces, and same thing on the copper side. So make sure you know those for your exam. That will be an important one to know from a networking perspective. Let's shift gears now and do another question. I've got one for you. We really weren't able to go through all of the answers on that one, but this one we will because it's a multiple choice. Here's your question. I hit next on my side and see it as well. Which of the following would be the best way to prevent a man-in-the-middle attack on a local subnet? Which of the following would be the very best way? I put a very in there. Which of these would be the best way to prevent a man-in-the-middle attack on a local subnet? Your possible answers are A, configure MAC filtering, B is enable DAI, C is configure DHCP snooping, D is disable SSID broadcasts, and E is enable port forwarding. One of those would be the best way to prevent a man-in-the-middle attack. If you think you know the answer, do not put it in the chat room or anything that would be considered any hints in the chat room. You should instead go to professormesser.com/QA and answer this one. And we'll see how we did. This is one you may not have run into because it's not a situation that tends to be very common. It's one where you have to think about from a security perspective, a man-in-the-middle attack. How am I going to prevent that? How are we going to enable that? And it's something you probably do want to have turned on or enabled or set or configured or whatever it is you do to make this happen. Hopefully on your network there will be an option to prevent these types of things. You don't want anybody getting in your local subnet and being able to perform a man-in-the-middle attack. So a number of you are indeed coming through and answering this one. This is one where it kind of blends into the Security Plus content a little bit, doesn't it? There's a little bit of that. In fact, on the Network Plus exam and on the A Plus exam, there's a whole section on security. And this is coming directly from that security section and being able to work through them. Let's see how we answered with this one. We see that the majority of, well, not quite the majority, but almost a majority of you answered A, configure MAC filtering. 46% of you said to configure MAC filtering. 22% said configure DAI. 14% said configure DHCP snooping, and almost identical number, 11%, said disable SSID broadcasts, and only 5% said enable port forwarding. So by twice the total, twice the one that's next smallest, most everyone chose, 49% of you chose configure MAC filtering A. So what would be the best way to prevent a man-in-the-middle attack? Well, the answer is going to be immediate, and it's going to be right here, dynamic ARP inspection, DAI. One of the things on a local subnet, one of the easiest ways to perform a man-in-the-middle attack is through some type of ARP poisoning, because you're in the local subnet. And that was sort of the part of this question that said on your local subnet. If it's on a local subnet, you can automatically think that must have something to do with ARP. This is this feature, which is dynamic ARP inspection. This is a capability that's built into your switches. This is something that can indeed stop ARP poisoning at the switch. The switch becomes the thing that prevents someone else from being able to do that. How does it do it? Well, it just keeps looking at all of the different devices on your network and registering where all of those IP addresses are and the MAC addresses associated with those IP addresses. This is a nice capability since the switch is so focused on MAC addresses. Let's layer all of these things together. So what the switch is able to do is intercept all of these ARP requests and responses, anything going back and forth in ARP requests, all of the ARP requests and responses. If you have anything that shows up on an interface that shouldn't be there, somebody's trying to spoof somebody else's MAC address, somebody else is trying to spoof somebody else's IP address, it's an invalid IP to MAC address, then it'll drop it. It will not allow that. You will only allow the interfaces to work for the traffic to pass through the interfaces that are appropriate for those requests. So it's a fantastic capability. You should absolutely have this turned on your switch. This should absolutely be preventing someone from performing a man-in-the-middle attack on your local subnet. So let's look at your answers. We, of course, saw that A, configure MAC filtering. 48% of you chose A. If you were to configure MAC filtering, it would prevent anybody with a particular MAC address from connecting to the network. If I'm not connected to the network, it's very difficult for me to perform a man-in-the-middle attack. So that would not be the correct answer in this particular question. We know that enabled DAI was B, 23% of you. That was indeed the correct answer. So a quarter of you found that capability. C is configured DHCP snooping. And DHCP snooping is very useful for preventing a DHCP rogue, a rogue DHCP server. But it does not help us for man-in-the-middle attacks so much. Actually works in conjunction with a lot of these MAC to IP features that are on the switches. Disable as SSID broadcast would prevent a wireless network from showing up in a list of available wireless networks, would not help you from preventing a man-in-the-middle attack. And then you've got enable port forwarding. Port forwarding is not something you will find either as being useful for man-in-the-middle attacks. That allows us to have connectivity on there, being able to have that there. On the chat room, people are saying, is this enable DAI, this dynamic ARP inspection, is that an option found only on switches? Generally speaking, yes. That is really the best place to identify IP to MAC address links, and that's the place where you would be able to stop any of the communication on your local subnet is with that. One of the things about dynamic or things about man-in-the-middle is you can't look for a man-in-the-middle attack on the end station very well. That's because to the end station, everything looks normal. There's not much of a difference. With ARP poisoning, you could look for ARP changes, but sometimes these changes happen normally. So how do you know which one is normal and which one might be malicious? You don't. So you really can't do very much on the local device. That's one of the beauties of man-in-the-middle, is that it's so invisible to everything else. So indeed, same situation here. So if you answered B, enable DAI, 23% of you did a good job. Got that one absolutely right. But that's okay. If you got that one wrong, now you know the answer. If this ever comes up on your exam, you'll know that you can address this problem with enabling the dynamic ARP inspection. Let's do another question, shall we? Let's jump into it. I've got one ready. And the question is right here. Which of these would be the best way to determine the dB loss across a fiber connection? Which of these would be the best way to determine the dB loss across a fiber connection? Well, we've got some options, thankfully. Would it be view switch statistics for the fiber interface? Would it be to insert a fiber coupler? Would it be to connect the fiber to a light box? Would it be to measure with a multimeter? Would it be to test the fiber link with an OTDR? One of those would be the best way to determine the dB loss across a fiber connection. Have those there. In the chat room, people are asking, back to that previous question about dynamic ARP inspection, are routers capable of doing this? They could be, but they usually aren't, because that by the time it gets to the router, it's too late. It's really the switch that allows you to stop traffic on there. If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA, and you would be able to answer this one. Make sure you go there and be able to participate online. professormesser.com/QA is where all of the questions are. Just pop open a new window, and you'll be able to see this one right there and answer it. I'm going to sneak a peek, in fact, of those that are already answering. Did we bounce back on this one? Do we feel better about this question? I think we do. I think we feel a little better about the answer on this one. I've got a lot of you that are looking at this question and wondering, what's the difference? What do we do? What is the option? Okay, let's flip back over and see how we did with this one. We're going to flip over to the answers, and here they are. Wow. Okay, 83% of you said test the fiber link with an OTDR. That was a pretty obvious answer for most of you. Said 83%. Like, okay, you feel very strongly about this apparently. The next highest, really tie for second, would be C, connect the fiber to a light box, and D, measure with a multimeter. And then a tie for third, only 1% of you said view switch statistics for the fiber interface, and 0% of you, none of you, said to insert a fiber coupler to be able to see that. Well, that's, I think we can kind of go with the broad stroke there. Most of you said E, test the fiber link with an OTDR. This is one of the challenges you have with fiber, because it is you want to send this over a very long distance usually, and you're only going to get so much light through that fiber. You're going between buildings, you're going between parts of the city, you're going a very long distance. And the challenge you have is the device that's sending the signal is sending at a particular strength. The device that's receiving that signal is receiving it after it's gone all the way through that fiber. It's lost some of its power. It's coming in. It's been attenuated. And now it's not as strong when it gets to you. So the device that you're plugging into has to be able to at least be able to understand the signal coming through at whatever strength it finally comes in at. So the real question is, how do we measure that? How do we know what we're going to do? We know that we've cleaned the fiber ends, usually have alcohol. You're cleaning those ends before you plug them in so you get the best possible signal. Make sure you don't touch the ends with your finger and get the oil from the human body right on top of that, or any dirt that you might have on your hands. Make sure you clean it off very well before plugging it in. And you also want to make sure your fiber is in good shape, obviously, and that you don't have any breaks along the line. But ultimately, if you want to do some detailed measurements on fiber equipment, on fiber links, this is going to be what you're going to use, is being able to do something like this. Every one of those is an OTDR situation. We need an optical time domain reflectometer. OTDR, that's what that is. The OTDR is one that's going to be able to give you detailed information about the status of that fiber. It will tell you if there's any breaks of the fiber and how far down the breaks are. It'll be able to tell you what the strength of the signal is coming through that fiber connection. We commonly use an OTDR when we first perform a fiber installation. We put all the fiber in the wall, we put it between sites, and we'll put devices on both ends and measure what the signal is going through. So we at least can understand, based on these OTDR values, how much light loss. In fact, if you have a fiber infrastructure, that should have been the last thing done, is they'll go through every one of those connections, and they'll give you a sheet of paper, or they'll put next to the fiber, here's the dB loss for each one of these fibers. So you know when you're plugging in, here's how much signal you can expect to lose when you plug in two devices between those. So that's pretty useful to have that there. That's something that if you've worked with fiber, you know, and I have a feeling some of you have, or you remembered it. And that would be answer E, test the fiber with an OTDR. We would not really view switch statistics for the fiber interface. That would tell us how much of the signal we were receiving and if we were able to make anything of it, but we don't know what the loss is by sitting one place in that connection. That doesn't help you very much. Inserting a fiber coupler, just simply breaking connection and putting a coupler in the middle may extend the length of the fiber, but it doesn't give you any idea what the loss is of the signal. Connecting the fiber to a light box, I kind of made that one up. There's no such thing as a light box in fiber analysis. There is in doing pictures. It's a light box, but not in fiber. And measuring with a multimeter. Multimeters are great for measuring electrical signal across copper. They can't help you very much for measuring signals, light signals across fiber. So that would not be the right answer either. The answer, quite obviously, is E, test the fiber link with an OTDR. Plenty there to work through. So hopefully you got that one right too. As people are saying in the chat room, there's a lot of different abbreviations and acronyms in here I need to know. So much that you need to know. And you're absolutely right. Probably more than the A+, more than the Security Plus, almost more than any other type of exam. These networking exams have tons of acronyms in them, along with having to understand everything about IP subnetting and protocols and encryption and fiber and copper and wireless and topologies and everything that's in these videos. What I've done is go through every single video, and I wrote down everything in every video. I took every graphic from every video. I took everything I could find, and I put them into a single document. So if you like to write your own notes, absolutely do that. But a lot of us don't have time, or you don't go through every single one of the videos. Well, I've already created a set of notes for you. These are my Network Plus course notes. You can find out about these at professormesser.com/NPCN. And here's a copy of the course notes here. This is them. The Network Plus course notes are 65 pages long. And I mean every bit of everything from every video. You can even see those connectors we were dealing with today right there in the course notes. 65 pages worth. It's pretty big because I took every bit of text and every image. And in fact, there's a version that is also a book version. The $15 is for a PDF version, but you can pay another $15 and get a full color printed version. They're exactly the same content. There's nothing different between the two, but this is a fully bound book that I will ship to you. And when you buy the book, you also get the PDF version too. So it's kind of a bonus. You're not only getting a physical version, you also get the electronic version, the digital version as well. Either way, all of this goes back to helping support the site. So thank you so much for all of your support. Hopefully this is also something that can be useful to you to be able to use. If you want to know more about this, you can find it at professormesser.com/NPCN. NPCN. You'll have Network Plus course notes. That's what that stands for. Or you can just find it on my website on the Network Plus course notes. Might be something that you could use as well for the things that you're working on. There's a lot there. Hopefully that can be something that doesn't replace your book, doesn't replace the videos, but before you go into that exam, it's a nice way to go through some notes and jog your memory. Let's do some more Network Plus questions. I've got one. You're probably going to need a pencil for this one. Does everybody have a pencil, sheet of paper, ready to go? I've got to have more of a calculation question for you. And then indeed, here's the question. What is the decimal value of 233 octal? What is the decimal value of 233 octal? This is a question because on the Network Plus exam, this is something new on this version of the exam that's been out. It's new, but it's 3 years old. It's this version of the exam where they introduced this, is they introduced the need to be able to convert between decimal, binary, which has been in kind of the other exams. When you deal with subnetting, you're doing a lot of decimal to binary, but they also introduced hexadecimal and octal and being able to work through these. Now, fortunately, doing conversions with hexadecimal and octal are really easy. It's relatively simple to get this. There is a very simple set of a structure. In fact, one of the things you may want to do is write down some of the charts that are in my videos that will show you how to do a quick conversion between octal and decimal, something you can think about doing. Maybe you're thinking about that now. What was that chart? What did it look like? How could I now take 233 octal and convert it to decimal? This is one that's relatively easy to do. Maybe not in your head. Maybe not in my head. Maybe in your head it would, but mine not so much. A number of you are doing pretty good with this one and these answers, but it's in the exam objectives. So make sure that you go through all of the exam objectives. You know everything that's listed there. Folks in the chat room will say, oh, I didn't go through octal conversions. It's in there. You need to know that. So make sure you go through those pieces. Let's run through a scenario then where we're taking 233 octal and we're converting it to decimal. So what I do, and I explain this in my videos, what I do is I create a chart. The chart's down here at the bottom. And you can see that because it's octal, we're multiplying by 8. 1 times 8 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 64 times 8 is 512, which is the same thing as saying, by the way, 8 to the 0 power, 8 to the first power, 8 to the second power, 8 to the third power. You don't have to put that, write down the 8 to the first, second, or third power on your sheet. Really, it's those first two rows that are most important. But you've got 1, 8, 64, and 512 to be able to work through those. And being able to kind of look at the chart and be able to figure out what to do with it. So you've got at least a place to put those in there. Now we've got 233 octal. So we've got that value on the screen that we can work with. So what we need to start doing is taking the numbers available to us and putting it into our chart. Now, the first one we have on our screen, 512. Of course, we could take this to the next level too, 512 times 8, and just keep expanding out from there. But in our case, we started with 512. 512 is more than 233. So we can't fit a 233. It's not above 512, so there's 0 in that particular spot. 0 512s to be able to come up with 233, but 64 is certainly less than 233. And in fact, we could fit 2 of those. So if we take 64 and multiply it by 2, we get these numbers that I'm going to bring up on your screen. 8 and by 3 probably did a different. There's 128. There we go. So 64 times 2, we've got the 128. We take the 128 and we subtract out the difference. And now we have to figure out for all of these 233. So we've got 64, 2, 3, 3. There it is. We multiply 8 by 3 and 1 by 3. And then you simply add them all up. So when you're bringing this and doing conversion from octal to decimal, it's a little easier because you just plug in the numbers right at the bottom. We know 512 won't fit, but 64 certainly will. 233, and we've got 128, 24, 3. Add them up all together. Hopefully we added them right. 155. That is, now you can do anything that's any octal number. Just plug in the decimal number in each one of those and be able to multiply them, bring them down, and add them up. That's it. It's pretty quick once you start going through it. It'll take a minute to get it through there, which is why at the beginning of the exam, it's not a bad idea to write some of these charts down so that you have them available. Or if you do enough of them, they'll be stuck in your head for the rest of your life. Sorry about that. Boy, they sure do, though. And I think if I look through the answers that we got coming through, a lot of you got 155. So if you're not sure about this, you didn't get that number, being able to work through those, being able to have all those there, you've got plenty to work through for all of that. So that's one of those where if you start breaking down the differences and have them all here, you'll do just fine. 233 is the number. So if let's take another octal number. For example, if you take 62, all I have to do is put a 6 and a 2. 8 times 6, 1 times 2, bring them down, add them together. That's it. That's what you do every single time. So just keep going through that process. Go through, just pick some numbers. Just pick some octal numbers, put it into that list, convert it to decimal. Do them over and over and over and over. And hexadecimal. So in the chat room, people are going, so what do I need to know? You need to know your decimal, your binary, your octal, and your hexadecimal. Those are the 4. And you need to be able to convert between all of those. Usually what I do is convert back to decimal, and then I convert to something else. So that's the easy way to go through all of that and have those there. I think that's just keep doing it over and over. You'll do just fine. Let's do another one. Let's go through. I've got another question available. We'll do this one that says, at which OSI layer would you find most IP tunneling protocols? Which OSI layer would you find most IP tunneling protocols? And your options are, well, 1 through 7. Not giving you anything to work with here. We know there's 7 OSI layers. It's one of those 7. Which is it? I guess I could have just done a fill in the blank on this one. But this is one, hopefully, you know your OSI model. Someone even sent me an email once of, why are we learning the OSI model? We don't even use the OSI protocol anymore. And nobody's using the OSI model, except that's not true at all. We use the OSI model all the time, constantly. The OSI model is really what we do whenever we're starting to work with understanding networking, whenever we're talking about networking, whenever we're talking about firewalls, whenever we're talking about the new application deployment, anything touching the network, we're constantly using the OSI model as a reference. We need a layer 3 device on that subnet. We need to get a firewall that understands layer 7. Those are the constant nomenclature of network and security professionals. It's just a normal part of what we do. So that's one that you will absolutely run into for all of those pieces. It's something that does also, it's pretty important to know, because then you can translate. When somebody's saying, I think we have a problem at layer 3, say, okay, I know where we should go to look at that particular problem. So it also helps you doing those types of things as well. And maybe that will help you whenever you're looking through all of these. Yeah, in the test, they are going to give you a piece of paper. Usually it's a laminated sheet, 8.5 by 11 usually. And it's one where they'll give you a marker. For some reason, they give you a marker that's designed for posters. I don't know what the deal is, why they can't give you a fine-tipped erasable marker, but that's another tip for you. You may want to bring your own fine-tip erasable marker into the exam, because that I'm not sure what they're thinking. Are we having a jamboree? Is it a big game day? Are we doing posters? But that's what they do for some reason, assuming they work. I went into one exam and I went through 2 or 3 markers before we ever found one that actually worked. And even then it was a big fat tip. Were they using it to nail? Was it used in construction? Is that what we had on that dry erase marker? Bring your own. You'll be much better off. Let's see how we answer this question. Which OSI layer will we find the most IP tunneling protocols? Well, we've got a nice curve, don't we? With the average here. If we look at it, the highest number, 34%, said layer 3, 30% said layer 4, 19% said layer 5, 14% said layer 2, down to 3% said layer 6, and then 0% said layer 7, and 0% said layer 1. So nobody at the far ends of this one. Hey, would that be it though? That'd be how we work through that. Let's talk about tunneling IP information and where we would want to do that. Probably the most common place to tunnel IP traffic is probably layer 5. It's where the tunneling happens. Any tunneling protocols are usually there on layer 5. So this is one where you've already got an IP address and a port number. Now you want to tunnel all of that across from one side to the other. You at least need to get through layer 3 and layer 4 to do that. So just above layer 4 is a perfect place to tunnel IP level protocol information. So that would be a very good place to focus. And most tunneling protocols are going to use that layer and having those pieces there. There are not as much an emphasis on layer 5. Most everything you're going to see and that has more of a concrete description is going to be at layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and layer 4. 5, 6, and 7 are often combined together and sent across as the application. But of course, those 5, 6, and 7 have different things that they can do. That's layer 5, for instance, is in charge of setting up this communication between both sides that the application is going to use. And it's something that's going to be doing some tunneling. A lot happens at that layer 5. So it's something that can be absolutely useful. If you're trying to figure out details of the OSI model, you can see at the bottom is section 5.1, the video 5.1, understanding the OSI model and being able to work through that is layer 5, session layer, to be able to work through that. So if you're somebody who's been working through layer 5, 19% of you said layer 5. We had quite a distribution there. Wouldn't be layer 4, layer 3. Those are the things that we will eventually be tunneling. Really, everything under layer 5 is everything that we're going to be tunneling. And then we're tunneling everything over that to have that communicate. And those tunneling protocols become very important. So if you're running that IPsec, trying to get those. The OSI model is kind of a challenge to know, because the OSI model, it almost is you now trying to learn something that you've never touched before. That could be a challenge. And plus, it doesn't exist. You can't actually touch it. It's a model. It's a way of thinking. And if you've never gotten into the OSI layers before, you can see that can be a little bit of a challenge trying to remember. So definitely it's one of those. Yes, some people in the chat room are saying, yeah, but the TCP/IP model is so much more straightforward because we're using TCP/IP. Yep, and nobody uses the TCP/IP model in normal conversation, ever. We always use the OSI model whenever we're describing anything, just the way it worked out in the industry. Who knew? If you're somebody who's trying to figure out all of these pieces, this may be a good place to go, as learn more about the OSI model. If you are somebody who's also watching this for continuing education unit credit, and you would love to get 1 hour of webinar credit for watching this study group, whether you're watching live or watching on a replay, you can go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. You can find the Contact Us link and click that. It'll take you to a page with a little bit of a form there where you can put in your name, put in your email address. Those are pretty important, or I won't be able to send you back the digitally signed certificate. And you want to tell me that this is the December 2017 study group, and the secret word of the month is session layer. That is our secret word of the month, session layer. And that will get you an email sent to me. I will show up on my phone. I'll go through your emails. You can also put anything else you'd like in there because they're coming to me. I'm going to read through them. And I will, I'll take them. I'll send you back a digitally signed email that says you must have watched this. Here's your 1 hour of CEU. You knew the special word. Here you go. So it usually takes me about a week to turn those around. I'm about a week late right now, as a matter of fact. So that'll be something I can work through. So make sure you go through and are able to do that. That's that secret word again, session layer. There's a lot to the Network Plus exam. Tons of things that you might need to know. The folks at GTS Learning have labs already set up that you can go through with their live labs. Find out about these at professormesser.com/netlabs. They're all available that you can use in your browser. And if you follow that specific link, there's actually a discount. We'll talk about that in a moment. The labs themselves, I'm running one in my browser right now. These are the live labs. Here's the lab that I'm working on for using host-based firewalls and network address translation. And I've got the devices already powered on. These are virtual machines running. This is a Windows machine. So you can use all of these machines. And in fact, it's almost like I'm using one that's live. In fact, it runs better than my Windows 7 machine, quite honestly. Even though we're remote desktop, that's a beautiful thing. There's multiple machines here. There's a domain controller that you can work with. Here it is. We'll connect to that domain controller. This is Windows Server 2008 R2. And they have all of these labs ready to go. So you've got the machines. You don't have to do anything on the machines. It takes you through step one. Here's what you want to do for the first task is run through this. And it even tells you connect to the domain controller, click start, click search. You want to ping that other device and make sure it's up and running and see what the response is. And here's what that response means, which is probably even more important. You get more detail about what is that really that I'm doing. I'm not just going through a step, but what does that step mean for me? And because you've got full access to a Windows domain controller and a full network already set up for you, you can go through and connect to all these devices and perform whatever task you'd like. It's all available with this NetLab. You can find out about this at professormesser.com/netlabs, and you want to follow that link because if you go to the GTS Learning website directly, you pay $169. But if you follow that link, automatic discount for you, $109 to have access to those labs. Plus, you now have a product that you're working with those great folks from GTS Learning. They include their Network Plus book with this. They include their Network Plus questions with this. They put everything in there. That is not monthly. $109 for 1 year's access to that lab. So that would be something, wouldn't it? Why am I not doing these labs? No, $109 and you're done. You have full access to those. Very nice to have that, have all those pieces. So let's do some more questions. We've got time to cram a couple more in, right? We can get a few more questions in here. Let me straighten things out on my screen. Here is the next question for you. Oh, by the way, the folks at GTS Learning, very great folks to work with. I want to thank them again for just being a sponsor of what we're doing. We really could not do this without them, and they're great folks to work with. Love working with them. Let's do another question. Here's the question. Which of these network types would be the best choice to connect and manage manufacturing equipment? Which of these network types would be the best choice to connect and manage manufacturing equipment? Would it be A, MediaNet, M, MAN, C, SCADA, D, WLAN, and E, WAN? Which of these network types would be the best choice to connect and manage manufacturing equipment? If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA and answer the question online. I think some of you know about this one. Some of you have watched that video on network types, or maybe you've worked with a network that is very similar to a manufacturing network. Some of you in the chat room are insisting that you got it correct, but how do you know? I think some of you know right off. Some of you knew immediately what I didn't even have to give you a multiple choice on this one, did I? Is it a gimme? It's not a gimme, but if you've been through this video, it's one that probably rings familiar. I'll say that. Because there's only so many different options, right? There's only, 10 options I could have put here to have through that list? Maybe so. Manufacturing equipment can be a little bit of a challenge. If you've not worked in a manufacturing environment, you may not know anything about these to have that there. Hopefully that works out pretty good with all of that. So that's one where not everybody's going to know this particular answer, but if you worked with it before, you really do. You really do to have that there. Let's see how we're doing with this one. A lot of you have the answers in, so let's see how we did with this one. Have a look-see, and 72%, so we did get a majority on this one, but not as strong as some of the others, said SCADA. And then it's practically a tie for second, all the others. We have literally 9, 8, 6, and 5% as WLAN, WAN, MediaNet, and MAN, respectively. So that's one where it looks like 72% of you at least went there and said, yeah, SCADA. I think SCADA is what we're going to be. We're going to go with that. Is that the correct answer? Is that what we're working with? SCADA, I think, is our right answer, isn't it? That is the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. It's a long name for just going through all of these and having the answer associated with this. You may see this referred to as ICS, Industrial Control Systems. These are the networks that are driving these very large pieces of equipment. It's common to see this for manufacturing. It's common to see this for power distribution. The power company has all of its equipment connected together, and it's doing SCADA and having those there. So that's also an option whenever you start looking at what's available and having those there. If you've never worked with equipment, you may not even realize these types of network exist. You have to be able to control these large types of equipment. There has to be a standard for that, and that's the SCADA network that you'd be connecting to. You also are able to monitor from here. So in the control room, you can see exactly what's happening with this equipment. You can turn things on and off. You can control everything using this SCADA network to have all of them there. So nice to have that there and those capabilities. So if you answered MediaNet, MediaNet's great for setting up a network to do media. It would be voice video type communication. So that would not really apply to manufacturing equipment. A metropolitan area network, a MAN, was answer B. And a metropolitan area network really refers to this distance as you're connecting inside of a local municipality. Has really no connection to manufacturing equipment and how you would use that. You've got WLAN was answer D, your wireless local area network. Usually you see that referred to as the cellular network, and being able to send digital information over a cellular network, again, has nothing to do with manufacturing equipment. And wide area networks, connecting devices and sites over very long distances, again, not something associated with manufacturing. The best choice, which was the question here, is indeed C, SCADA, 74%. Well done. 74% was a good number on there, I think, for folks to have that there. Some of you, I have a feeling, remember that one from the exam. It's certainly one of the options there. What was the 1.7? Network infrastructures, exam objective 1.7. And the video name, network infrastructures. If you want to go through that one and learn a little more about SCADA and the other network types, that's the video for you. I think we got time for another question. We absolutely have time. Let's do another one. I've got one right here. Which of the following best describes an inline PoE injector? Which of these best describes an inline PoE injector? Is it midspan? Is it inspan? Is it spanning tree? Is it front span? Or is it spanner? Which of those best describes an inline PoE injector? A midspan, an end span, spanning tree, front span, and spanner. One of those would best describe an inline PoE injector, whatever that is. It's kind of your two-step process there. You do have to know what an inline PoE injector is, and then you have to know what you call it. That's those two steps that I have. I try to put in every question. It's kind of hard to do that in some of the performance-based questions, at least the ones that we're doing online, but it's easier to do with these multiple choice. We kind of put some things in there dealing with inline PoE injectors and then all the different names for it. Some of these names are real. They're real names. Some of these names are not real. They're real names. They're real things. I wrote them down. They're as real as they can be, but they have nothing to do with anything. Just kind of made them up. Although some of these are used for something different than PoE injectors. So they're real but not used for this. You'll have to decipher through this list which one you think it really is on here. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. For those of you that kind of followed the videos and the questions that we do, they definitely, you never know exactly what you're going to get from these. And in fact, on your exam, you're going to be asked a question often that, well, you want to have the best answer, which best describes, what would be the best course of action, what would be the first thing that you do. Very common. So make sure you go through all of those and understand everything about them. Let's see how we did with the answers on the PoE injector. How do we do? Well, 52%. I try to get 50% of you to answer at least one of these questions, and 51% said mid-span. Now, is it the right answer? We don't know. We'll know in a moment. On the second highest answer would be 20% said spanner, and then a tie for third at 12% would be end span and spanning tree, and then 6% said front span. So we have a few different options there to choose from, but almost every, half of you anyway, said mid-span. So let's talk about powering up with power over Ethernet, or PoE. That's when we're putting the power on the Ethernet cable itself. So no more running an extra power connector. You don't have to find the little wall wart square thing to plug in for this particular device. You simply connect it to an Ethernet and suddenly it powers up. It's like magic in being able to work that. Now, these days, you see this being done for devices that don't need a lot of power. You know, you're not going to use power over Ethernet to power up a device that uses tons of power, at least not at the moment. We don't have those standards quite in place. So you're not going to be mining for cryptocurrency across power, using power over Ethernet as your power. You will be using it for things like wireless access points, phones, cameras, things that don't need a lot of power, but they're in this remote site, and it would be nice if we didn't have to put some power connector somewhere near it. If we could just plug it into Ethernet, that would be awesome to have this here. You see this all the time with voice over IP phones that need power, and like a power over telephone system, or the plain old telephone system, which now has power running over it. Not a lot of people realize there's actual power on those telephone lines. We put power on our Ethernet connection, so it's power over Ethernet. That's one where this power is really provided most of the time at the switch. So you can buy a switch that is designed for power over Ethernet, where you can plug into the switch and the power is automatically provided. So in my studio here, I've got a lot of cameras that we use. Some of these cameras are power over Ethernet cameras. I have a switch that's PoE ready. I simply just plug in my Ethernet cable. Magically, it turns on. I don't have to run an extra power connector. It's fabulous. But not all switches have that capability. And if your switch does not have that capability, you may need to put something right in the middle that can inject the power into that Ethernet connection, a power injector. It sits right in the middle. This, in fact, is a power injector that's in my data center right now. So I'm bringing in a connection from my switch. That's because I'm using a type of camera that needs a lot more wattage than what power over Ethernet can provide that I have in my switch. So I add additional power to it. You can see I've got both sides plugged in. It simply is an in and an out. So I've got the PoE data and the data coming in. So that's going to my switch, going out to the device itself. And as it goes through there, adds the power to the connection. Kind of nice to have that there. There's a couple different kinds of PoE you'll find where mode A of PoE puts power on the data pairs themselves. So both the data and the power are going over exactly the same wires. Creepy, huh? Weird. How's that work? It's an interesting capability known as phantom power. So your power is not conflicting at all with the frequencies being used for the data. Mode B puts the power on pairs that are not currently being used for data. Obviously, if you're running a gigabit network, gigabit's using all of the pairs. So on a gigabit network, you're using mode A definitely. If you're not on a gigabit network, you'll have a choice because you've got a couple pair available to do something else with it, have them there. That might be an option too. So how did we do? If this is a mid-span is the inline power injector because it's sitting in the middle of the span. Indeed, it is A. 51% of you that answered mid-span got that one absolutely correct. It would not be the end span. That would be putting the power at the end of the connector. Well, that's not where the power is added. In fact, you wouldn't need to use power over Ethernet if there was already power at the end. You just plug in to wherever that power was. You'd be in good shape. It would not be spanning tree, which is a protocol. Has nothing to do with power over Ethernet. It's a protocol used on switches to prevent loops on a layer 2 network. And front span is where effectively your switch is your front span. It's providing that at the very beginning. End span is where the power is already there on the end device. Front span, it's already at the beginning, but we usually don't use the term front span. Usually you'll see mid span and end span being used. And then spanner, not something you use for power over Ethernet at all, not used in networking at all, not used for any of these things. But it was in there anyway. 21% of you said spanner. You were close though. It had span in the name, right? So close for what we were doing. All of these questions and everything we've gone through today come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. So make sure you have this. This should be your list that you use as a big checklist. This should be where you start all of your studies. It should be where you end all of your studies. And it should allow you to check off everything that could possibly be asked of you on the exam. It's all in this. So go to professormesser.com/objectives and get your copy, or just go to the Google machine. That's a good place to go. And type in CompTIA exam objectives. It'll take you right to the page. Make sure you have these. They are extensive. You don't have this luxury with other industry certification exams that to be told everything that could possibly be asked of you. There's the Microsoft exams give you a basic overview of what you need to know. The Cisco exam objectives, nowhere close to this. The VMware exam objectives, not even near what we're doing here. So CompTIA is really doing you a favor. Make sure you take advantage of that favor that's there. Well, I mentioned earlier on in the pre-show, we do one of these study groups every week. Normally there's a Security Plus study group next week. This time we're going to skip a week. So because of the holidays and all kinds of nonsense going on, we'll skip a week. Security Plus will be at the end of the month on the 27th. Then, of course, we'll do another Network Plus study group next year in 2018. January the 10th of 2018 will be our next Network Plus study group. We'll do an A Plus study group on the 3rd, and we'll do a Security Plus study group on the 17th to have those there. So hopefully that's one where you can join us again for one of these. And of course, you can always find out when the next event is going to be by going to professormesser.com/calendar. So if you're watching this in the replay and you're well after January, you can always go there and find out exactly what's going on. While it's over, stick around. We've got questions and answers here in the second half of the show. But the questions, as far as the pop quiz questions we're doing, they're sort of over. But you can always follow what's going on at Messer Studios by following me on Twitter and YouTube. You type in professormesser.com/ the name of the thing, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You'll find me. It'll just take you right there to have those things there and all of the things you need to know. Don't forget about the course notes. Those might help you pass your exam. professormesser.com/NPCN, Network Plus course notes, or you can find them anywhere on my website. My thanks again to GTS Learning. Make sure you follow that link for the best price on their live labs, professormesser.com/netlabs. We'll take you right there. And we've got one of these every month. Check the calendar for the next one that's coming through. Stick around for the next hour. I've got plenty to talk about. We've got questions from the chat room. We've got questions you can call in and listen in. Otherwise, we will see you next time on the Network Plus Study Group. I need to get my Skype going so I can get the phone lines running. Skype. Here we go. Do I have it turned on? No. So it's not going to make noises. Let's turn it on so it will make a noise. Oh, let's see if I can get the calls ready to go so folks can call in and have those. I've got to type things. Where's the, what am I doing? Where am I? What's my name? We'll get there in a moment, everybody. Let's log in. Next year, 2018. It's next year, right? Not like 12 months from now. Let's host a show. Let's start a show. Let's figure out how to call into a show, which sometimes the hardest part. We'll do that. Got it. Thanks, Skype, for popping things up on a product that I've used for 15 years, telling me how it works. So appreciative.
Thank you for calling.
Well, you're very welcome. I need to type a thing there. I can't even hear it.
Enter your 6-digit PIN number.
All right. I will do that. And am I welcome?
Welcome.
I knew it. Thank you so much for welcoming me. Well, you can put questions into the chat room. I will be very glad to answer them there. Or you can call in to the chat room at 855-785-RJ45. That's a number you can call for toll-free anywhere in the continental United States. If you are outside of the continent, that is North America and the country of the United States, then you can use Skype and call for free. You put a +1 at the beginning. +1 855-785-7545, and there's no Skype minutes required. You simply call in, and you can talk right on the line. I'm also watching the chat room. So if you're at professormesser.com/live and you would like to put a question in there, you're more than welcome to do that as well. I can see them going by. But we have some folks that are calling in already, so we should probably take these calls so that we could work through this. Let's talk to somebody who's in the 443 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Good afternoon, Professor Messer. This is Ali from Maryland.
Oh, welcome. Thank you for calling. What can we do for you?
I just wanted to say that I successfully completed the A+ and the Network Plus.
Nice.
By watching your videos and studying parse.
Congratulations.
The Network Plus especially. Thank you. I'm trying to do the CCENT soon. I've been studying for it for a while. But my question was regarding the Microsoft Windows Server 2016 exam 70-740.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you gain MCP status by taking just one of those exams, or do I have to complete all three?
For Microsoft, I'm not sure what they're doing these days with that. Their MCP, the Microsoft Certified Professional, traditionally has been one where you pass one of those exams and you are effectively a Microsoft Certified Professional. The idea being you got a certification, so you must be a Microsoft Certified Professional. I don't think they've changed that recently, although I'll tell you, I haven't been on their site looking at certification things for quite some time. Mm-hmm. You've probably seen on my site, I had I still have the Windows 7, configuring Windows 7 video course out there, but I have not done any newer Microsoft exams courses since then, and I just haven't had any plans to add any additional Microsoft courses, unfortunately.
But thank you so much for your help and support, and thanks for your help.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Take care. That's great also to have both of those exams in there, too. Getting A+ and Network Plus already there. Can't beat that. Let's go to 786 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hi, how's it going?
Welcome. What can we do for you?
Hi, so my name is Hassan, and the area code is 786, but I am in LA.
That's okay. We won't think any worse of you.
Thank you so much for all the videos and everything. So my first question was that the security, so I passed my Network Plus a couple of months ago.
Nice.
And the next step was the SY 401.
Okay.
But recently they just came up with the 501.
Right.
And I see that you post videos every day, and I've been watching them. So my course of action has been that I watch these videos, and then I go to the chapter, which is what you told me before when I called in for the Network Plus advice.
It's a good strategy.
The videos and then go to the chapters.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was studying for the 401, and since the 501 came, so I just kind of shifted my focus towards 501. I ordered the book from Daryl Gibson, and I've been watching your videos as well.
Okay.
So is it a good idea to like switch from 401 to 501? That's my first question. And the second question is that the second step would be the CSA Plus, correct?
In the CompTIA world of things, that is the path usually takes you to the CSA Plus next. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then CEH or move on towards something else like the SANS Institute. So that's my second question.
Yeah, the direction and path, that's a whole nother set of things. So let's take the first question first, which is you've got the choice of two exams right now for Security Plus. The 501 series exam was released in October. And so now we're in this overlap period where you could take either the 401 exam or you could take the 501 exam. It doesn't matter which one you take. You earn exactly the same certification. So you can't go wrong, in other words. But the 401 exam will be retired on July 31st. So you have to look at your clock and your schedule and when you think you're going to be taking this exam, and you now have to do the math. Am I going to be able to get all of my studying done and be ready to take the exam before July 31st or not? And if that's the case, then you could probably still take the 401. Go with that. The 501 exam, a completely new exam, completely new topics. I would say half of the exam is new content. It was quite a rewrite. CompTIA usually doesn't change an exam this much when they move from version to version. Well, with Security Plus, they changed it a lot. And so it's completely restructured. And half of the content, I will say, as someone who's created the content for the course, half of the content's brand new. So these are all new types of content, which means if you study for the 401, don't expect that you're going to walk in and pass the 501. They're two very different exams, and vice versa. Don't study for one and then take the other, which is really my recommendation for people. Pick one. If you think you're going to be done by July, you may be a little bit at an advantage to stay with the 401 because there's more 401 content out there in the world than there is 501 because the 501 content was just released. Now, 501 content is being added very quickly. You can see my videos are going up. New books are showing up in Amazon all the time. And if you've got a good book and you've got at least some videos to go through, you've at least got a good set of content to start with. So that's where it's really up to you. Just pick one and go with that. Make sure all of your content matches that particular version of the exam that you would like to go with. So that's probably one of the most important things you can remember to do is match your study materials to the exam you're taking. Do not mix and match them. You'll be in big trouble if you go down that road.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice that there's a huge chunk of new stuff that they added to the 501. So in terms of the job market,
yep.
I mean, are employers going to be looking specifically for somebody that has the 501 because it's more up to date, or because I kind of just threw away my 401 material and I just switched over to 501 thinking that, this is more up to date and this is probably going to help me find a job. And the employers are going to see, okay, this is more updated. So let's hire this guy,
Most of the time, I would say all of the time, employers don't care which version of the exam you took. What they really care is, did you pass it and do you have your Security Plus certification? This is especially important when you think that now that you've earned an exam, you will simply refresh and add continuing education credits or take refreshing materials that allow you to renew that exam. You're never going to have to take a Security Plus exam again. So you can keep that Security Plus exam the rest of your career, and the 401 might be the first one you ever took. So in that particular scenario, employers don't really care which version of the exam you took. They care that you have the certification and that certification is currently active. Now, although the employers aren't, at least I've had no examples of anyone that ever came back to me and said, oh, I took the 401 and they wanted the 501. No one's ever done this. I think probably because employers just never keep up with what the exam versions are, and why would they? They're really looking for the certification. But that gives you an opportunity If you go take and pass your 501, when you go to the interview, you could say, oh, and I got my Security Plus certification, and it's not that old one from 3 years ago. I just took the new one and passed it. So you've got a little bit of bragging rights on that one that you could use. Use that as an advantage if that's the direction you're going. I found that the 501 content and the 401 content are still just as valid. Security has not changed in the last 3 years. We still need security. And it's not that we've changed a lot with the technologies either, but I found the 501 exam to be well structured, more put together, more along the lines of somebody who's dealing with IT security. So that's one where you should absolutely think about taking the 501, if only because it's structured a little better. You really can't go wrong. But I've never had any employer ever say, well, you didn't take the newest version, so I really don't think you're really Security Plus certified. Doesn't happen.
Gotcha. Last question, I'm going to let you go, is that I didn't see any CSA content on your website. Are you planning on putting any content there? Or
the CSA exam from CompTIA was released well over a year ago now. They have just gotten that exam added to the United States federal government Department of Defense requirements, so that if somebody earned their CSA Plus, it matches one of the minimum requirements needed for some of the jobs in IT for the Department of Defense. So I've been watching it. One of the things I want to do is create videos and content that people need to see. And if there's not an enormous need, then I have to measure that with what do I spend my time doing. So up to this point, I've not really been looking at CSA Plus as something viable for me. It's still a viable certification, but from a where do I spend my time, it's in my top 10, but it's not quite at the top of the list yet, if you know what I'm saying. But it's slowly gaining a little bit of steam. Not as much as I would have liked, but I grab information from people like you who are telling me, hey, I'm looking at the CSA Plus exam. I'd love to have some content. I look at Google Trends. I look at forums online. I look at Reddit posts, and I try to determine from there how popular is a need to have this kind of content. And then I blend that all together and come up with where I put it on my list of priorities. But currently, no, there's no current plans to create CSA Plus. These things tend to change week to week in my world, though. So, keep watching, stay tuned. Maybe it will become more popular or popular enough that I need to say, you know what, it's time to do some CSA content. Well, whether it's videos or course notes or questions or something, it may get to that point, but not currently, sorry.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for your time, and I guess I'll keep an eye out, and if you do post something, I'll definitely start watching that. But thank you again.
You're very welcome. Good luck with your Security Plus.
Thank you.
That's one of those where there's so many options available for taking your exam. And I'm trying to figure out the right option. So in the chat room, people are saying, okay, CSA Plus would be nice. If you could do some CSA Plus, that would be great. It would be great. And I'd love to be able to, my goal is to make content for every single certification out there. There's just this physics problem I have with the amount of time during the day. That's my challenge. And having those there. Let's go to 847 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hey, Professor Messer, Frank here. How you doing?
Hi, thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Oh, yeah. Hey, happy to call. I've passed A+, watching your videos and studying, and I also passed the Security Plus. This was a couple of years ago. I lucked out, and I got to tell you, luck has shined upon me. I'm a network engineer for the government. It's a fantastic opportunity I have. It's been going on 3 years. I'm studying CCNA right now. But I want to piggyback on the prior caller, the Security Plus and the continuing education. I was been so busy the past few years, and all of a sudden I'm looking down the tunnel. I got 6 months before I have to either take the test or do continuing ed. Can I get it? Do you think I can get that continuing ed done within these 6 months, or is it just a steep climb at this point?
It is a much easier climb than it has ever been in the past. And I say this because CompTIA has recently introduced for their continuing education processes more options that you could really complete very easily. It used to be they had all these different things that you had to do. You had all these activities that you had to choose from, and they still have that on their website. If you go to the CompTIA website, you can look through all of those different activities and things that they have there. But one that they've added recently is right at the top under continuing education, renew with a single activity. So this already, people should be thinking, what? I can just do one thing and it's renewed? Yes, you can. They're trying to make it easier for everybody to do this. You could, of course, take a higher level exam, but there's that's a lot of study time. And if you're already planning to take a higher level exam, that would be good. But CompTIA has Cert Master CE. If you have an A+, Network Plus, or Security Plus, of course, they're selling this product to you. So if you have a Security Plus, for example, $175, you can buy it. It takes you through this e-learning course. They say the estimated duration is 4 to 6 hours, but once you've done, they say that's it. You're now updated. You got all the CEUs you need. You only need to pay your CEU money to them, and you're renewed. So it's easier than usual. Same thing for Network Plus, same thing for A+. They've got these single-use type things to be able to do that. So make sure that you have a look at their website and see the options available. They also have now recertification exams. So let's see if they have one for Security Plus. I think they just added one for Security Plus. So if you really just want,
I like the first. I think I like that first option there.
Yeah, me too.
You showed me.
Me too. Let's not do an exam.
Really good. Yeah, I'm actually just I'm digging into the Network Plus because I know it's going to help me with the CCNA. So, I'm just got a lot of things going on, but like I said, I won't keep you, but I really admire what you're doing, and it's just you've always been a great resource, and I just want to say thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for calling, and best of luck with that renewal.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Take care. That's great. That's more options than ever. You should never let a certification expire anymore. They're just making it way too easy for you to do that. The recertification exams, by the way, I do not believe are proctored, which means you don't go to a Pearson facility. I think it's all done online. So it's another advantage if you are thinking about doing the renewal exam and not doing the other piece. So that's useful to have that, to have all of those pieces there. For the people in the chat room wondering, because people are calling about all kinds of different topics, Network Plus, Security Plus, A+, doesn't matter. The after show, we talk about anything. It's open phone lines. So the questions coming in or any questions you have about anything, you can ask me about. Let's not talk about politics. Let's talk about IT news. Let's talk about video gaming. Let's talk about cryptocurrency. Let's talk about anything technical. And we could talk about any certification type. It doesn't have to be for the Network Plus. For the folks, we have another call holding. I'll be with you in just a moment. People in the chat saying, oh, you wrote down the verification phrase. You know what the secret phrase was from the first hour. The link is on my website at the top or the bottom where it says contact us. And that's where you want to put on all of the information I provided there. That will allow you to earn your continuing education unit 1 hour in that first hour. To have that there. Let's go back here to the calls, and then we'll answer the question about what we should get for lunch, which is a very good question. To the phone lines, 813, Florida number. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Yes, hi. My name is Curtis, and yep, right down the road here in Tampa.
Welcome.
So, hi from down the road. But yeah, I'm just calling just because, just a quick question. I recently passed my Network Plus, and I have very limited experience in the field. I do have my A+, and I was in different industry for a number of years, and so I have about a year, maybe a year and a half of experience now, and I just got my Network Plus, and I guess I'm really just trying to figure out what type of jobs I should be looking for.
Right.
Everything I'm looking at is, several years of experience, and there's certain, I really want to get into the network side of things, but, I'm not really finding anything that really fits, what my level of experience and maybe comfort is at this point. So I'm just wondering maybe if you have any advice for me there.
What in your current position, are you in a technical position now? What kind is that?
Yeah, so I'm doing technical support for Verizon through a third-party company.
Great.
And I'm getting some good experience there for sure. And I'm willing to be patient, of course, and put my time in and earn it. But I'm just wondering if there's maybe a way to break into a more network, network engineer, network type of position. Now that I have this A+ certification, this Network Plus certification.
Right. Well, you're certainly in a good place in the world because that Central Florida area, Tampa, Orlando area, is so full of organizations that need technical people, especially those dealing with networking and security. And the organization you're working for, even though it's a third party to Verizon, you get to put that name on your resume saying you provided tech support for Verizon, which means you also have a little bit of people here, Verizon, you might be providing tech support for their voice or their cellular services, but it's a big network. And they know you've at least been at some way or associated with this large organization. Plus, you may be able to even contact Verizon, which of course has a lot of call centers and data in that area to be able to do something in the Tampa area. But let's kind of back up a little bit and just talk about a broader strategy, because this is something a lot of people run into, is that they've certified to a certain point. They know that that's interesting to them, and now they want to go get a job doing that particular thing. I was the same way when I first saw networking. I thought, this is awesome. That's what I want to do. How do I do more of this?
Yeah.
The advantage you have in your particular geographical area is that there are local user groups of people that are doing networking. There is a Cisco user group. They've got offices in Clearwater that they bring people in all the time. They have their user group meetings there a lot. There are Microsoft user groups in your area. There are VMware user groups in your area. There's probably even Amazon, I would think, user groups, because there's so many people in Central Florida that need that type of content, that need that type of information. That may be a great way, and I say this all the time, it really is a great way to meet people in your area who are the security, networking, operating system professionals. They're the ones hiring, or at least they know people in the industry that are hiring, because a lot of the people that go to those meetings, they've been around for a while. They know the local group of folks. They know the companies that are looking for people. They know what companies like to bring people in who might have less experience and train them internally. So take advantage of those local meetups and find out when they're happening. It's as easy as a Google search to find the local Cisco user group meeting. And plus, it's a great place to learn things. If you're trying to stay up to date with the latest technologies, you'll go to the meeting. Half the stuff's going to go over your head the first time because they're talking about topics you had no idea what they mean. But it starts to seep in after a while. Plus, you get to meet these people. You find out, hey, have you heard anything? You can ask them, have you heard anybody who's hiring lately? Because everybody needs professionals right now. Projects are ramping up. People are trying to fill those seats, and they will know. And I have found, and I tell people this also all the time, when I got into technology right out of college, the very first job I got, I happened to get in an interview not knowing anybody who worked there. It was in a different city. I knew nobody who worked in that organization, and for some dumb reason, they hired me. But I've had through since then, I don't know, 12 or 14, maybe even 15 different jobs where I actually moved either within a company or moved to a new job outside the company. And I hopped from job to job. Every single job after that, I knew somebody who was there, because it's just a small group. We're really just a small group of people in these geographical areas.
Right.
So what you'll find is you'll know people, get your LinkedIn page going, get other people linked in with you. Make sure you stay up to date with what they're doing and where they are. Feel free to ping them on LinkedIn. Hey, saw you at the meeting last week. Do you know anybody around who's looking for somebody that can do this? And just keep doing that. Don't forget that when you're trying to get into networking, that the digital networking is important, but the people networking is often just as important. That may be your ace in the hole. That may be your way around the hill that is experience, and at least you'll be able to balance that with, but I know people who are there, and people like working with people they already know.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's definitely great advice. And I will definitely do that. I didn't even think to look at that, but that makes sense to do, like you said, digital networking, but people networking just as important there. Well, Well, thank you very much, and you're the reason why I was able to pass my Network Plus, because every time I'm have a few minutes here, I'm always thinking about let me watch another video, let me brush up on something. And just as a quick thing, I took my Network Plus last week, and no subnetting, and I spent so much time working on that part of it, and I didn't get one subnetting question.
Yep.
But it worked out regardless.
That's the way it goes.
It was good.
A pass is a pass.
All right.
Congratulations,
Yeah, exactly.
Curtis.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Best of luck. In these big geographical areas, we often don't think there is state and local government, large state and local government. So you've got large areas with lots of equipment and lots of people. That's a great place to get in and start. School systems is another great place to get in and start. Both of those are very willing to train. And so and plus they have all kinds of different equipment. It's great. You learn a lot about a lot. But there are other companies, especially in that part of Florida and other large municipalities, where you have other companies that need somebody knowledgeable. So make sure you learn who those people are, introduce yourself, and learn more about that. Becomes very, very important to have that there. What should we get for lunch was a question that came in through the live event chat. And so I'm open really for anything at this point, folks. I usually have lunch before this, but I had a scheduling thing that happened. So I kind of came in here, threw a shirt on, got in front of this, punched the button, and we were talking. So I didn't get to have lunch. So now you've made me think about lunch. Thanks for that and having those things there. And Geek Diver in the chat room says, the people networking part, that's why I go to DEF CON. Okay, that's exactly it. You go to CanSec West, you go to DEF CON, you go to any of these conferences, whether it's Microsoft or Cisco. Cisco Live is a great conference for networking. The people you meet at Cisco Live is phenomenal, but you have to be someone who goes to meet those people. They have all kinds of meetups. They have all kinds of things. Even after hours, when these organizations have a party, they've got some type of entertainment, you go and meet people there, walk around, introduce yourself, swap contact information. That becomes really useful later when you start to know these people. And the more you can participate and the more you can do with them, the better off you're going to be in the long term. It worked really well for me, knowing these people in these different places. My last job, I stayed 7 years. Someone who knew me called me directly and said, they have a job here that will be perfect for you. And I was working at a company and said, no, I'm not interested. Well, maybe I'm interested. Let me go talk to them. Talked to them and realized it was an amazing opportunity and went there and stayed 7 years. So now this is the first job in a long time where I didn't know anybody here because I'm the one running it's just me. I guess that's cheating. I'm the only one at this job. I do know the vice president very well. She's quite a looker, I have to say. So that's your advantage, though, is knowing those people and having those things there. It can only help you. Let's go back to the phones. The 865 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hello. My name is Cody.
Hey, Cody. What can we do for you?
Mr. Messer, just curiosity, I was wondering, I'm currently studying at a local trade school. I'm studying IT, and I was wondering, what exactly has helped you advance in your career?
The thing that I think makes all the difference when you start looking at how do you get the momentum? How do you get things going? Because when you're first starting, you're sort of at a dead stop. How do you get all of this piece going? And I think it's just constant learning. That's the one benefit we have with IT is we're not on an assembly line that once you understand how to put the sole on the shoe and you pass it down the assembly line, you've learned everything you need to learn. But in IT, you never stop learning. So one of the advantages you have is once you get into the role of whatever you're doing, now you can start trying to figure out what things interest you. Should you do a little bit more networking? Is databases what makes sense? Managing a data center is interesting. Why don't we go work with the server team? How do we do more security? You've got plenty of places to go. So that's the one thing that in my career, it's never been I stopped at a certain point. It's always, how do I do more? How do I go farther with that piece. And usually it's because something interested me. When I started in IT, I started with a local computer company. I was kind of the field guy who delivered printers. I installed hard drives, did a little bit more than just delivery, but I would plug devices in. We'd bring the equipment in, then I'd plug everything in and made sure it worked. So it was more of a concierge, set it up and make sure everything was there. It was contractual with the end users. But that's one where it does help a lot if from there you find something that interests you. So working there, I got the chance to work with a network operating system and plug in networks and configure a network. That's pretty good. Whenever you start working with that and you think, wow, this is fun. I like the network thing. How can we do more network? So I went home. I set up a network. I read about networking. This was in the days before there was an internet. So you just grab books, you grab other manuals, anything you can find to read up on this content. Hopefully you were able to go to a training class and learn about those things too. So that's my recommendation is never stop. Just keep going down that road. And I think you'll be in pretty good shape. Let's go to the 865 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Yes, sir. This is Cody. Apparently our connection got cut.
No worries. So based on that, do you think that's something that makes sense for what you're focusing on?
No, sir. I couldn't even hear you at all. The connection completely got cut out.
Yep.
What did you say?
Well, that's a really good point. Kind of miss everything when it goes down that road. Fortunately, the replay of this is available immediately. So if you miss anything, you can always go back and rewind and listen to that piece. In fact, you can rewind in real time. And then, of course, you can watch the replay. Whenever I stop these, people say, how long before the replay is available? It's a couple minutes. It's already being recorded on YouTube. So that helps a lot when you go down that road. So hopefully that will help you, Cody. You can go down that road and figure out all of those pieces as well. Let's go back to the phones. The 682 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes, sir, I am.
Hey, what's your name?
It's Adam.
Welcome, Adam. What can I do for you?
I called it. Hey, how's it going, man? Hey, I called in before just to let you know I was about to take the Security Plus exam, and I couldn't wait till the 27th to tell you, but I passed.
Hey, all right.
Super stoked.
Nice. So what'd you think overall the exam? You obviously can't say details of what was on the exam, but based on what you were studying and what you were faced with on the exam, how'd you feel those matched up?
Well, I watched all 30-plus hours of your videos, so it was there was a lot of studying involved.
So this would be the 401 exam you took?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I took my own notes, but they were kind of trash at the end of it, so I went ahead and got your notes.
Well, thank you.
That helped me out a lot.
And it helps me out a lot, too.
I was trying to reread mine, and I was like, ooh.
I appreciate that.
What does
Thank
this
you.
say? Yeah. As far as the exam, though, it was very odd. It was very few questions. I was definitely reading up and expecting like 90-plus questions. It wasn't anywhere near that.
Yeah, the maximum is 90 questions. And I have been hearing this lately, that people are getting significantly fewer than that. And I think you probably saw in the exam that the questions themselves are getting more and more complex in the question.
Yes.
And I think that's probably why.
Yeah, it had, I don't really know how to explain it, but it had nothing to do with the content I learned. It had to do with what I would be doing if I was in an individual position.
Yep, they're trying to. You're learning about these topics and these concepts in security, but they really want to know, how do you use those concepts in security? How do you use an IPS? Where would you ever take advantage of this disaster recovery that you're trying to do? That's where they're really focusing these days, which I think is a good place to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got an 820, so man, I think I did pretty good.
Yeah, I would say so. So everything seemed to work out pretty well then.
Yeah, I was pretty afraid though. Once I saw the 70, man, my heart stopped.
You studied too much, really.
I can only miss. Yeah, right. And then I also wanted to give you a huge shout out for the CCENT notes.
Oh, nice.
I passed that too.
Wow. Okay.
So,
let's jump right into it. That's great. So
yeah,
let's by the way, for the folks that don't know, is that I have course notes for Cisco's CCENT exam, the ICND1 exam, that I don't have videos for. I keep saying one day I'm going to make Cisco videos, and I keep saying it, but of course it's all about physics and time, and I never seem to have the time to do it. But I do have course notes on that, and you're right. And what I did is I made an entire course I just didn't film it. I just didn't record it. I have the course notes from it. I'm glad you were able to take advantage of those. That's great.
Yeah, I went ahead and got the printed copy of that so I can review it. The what I was going to say though is that one was very heavy on subnetting. So to the other caller who didn't get any subnetting,
oh yeah,
go ahead and take the CCNT and you'll get some subnetting.
I created, you may have seen in my Network Plus content, people talk about my video I did called 7-second subnetting. And I did it because people laugh at the process I go through an exam because I'm one of these people in an exam that's not very functional. I kind of forget everything for the first 15 minutes. So I created this subnetting that you could do without doing any math whatsoever. But it involves writing a lot of things down before the exam starts. So it's not inconsequential. You still have to do things. But once you're in the exam, you can subnet very quickly. And I did it for the Cisco exam. That was exactly why, because you're right. Cisco's exams are extremely detailed with subnetting, which they should be, because once you get into switching, routing, and security, you're going to be doing subnetting constantly, all the time, in a meeting, in your head. It's just going to be second nature. So it's important that you learn that particular skill. You might not have gotten anything in your Network Plus, but as you saw in the Cisco exam, it's heavy into the subnetting side. You'll be doing a ton of it on Cisco. So that's great. Now, is your plan to do more of a networking role? Is that the direction you're going, or is there some other reason for taking all these certifications?
Well, no, I'm shifting careers. So I definitely finally found out what I want to be when I grow up.
Nice. I understand.
Like security network.
Took me a while too.
Right. And, right now I'm in the middle of the 410, 411, and 412?
Yep.
70. And that actually helped on the Security Plus because, I definitely know GPO and
right.
ADDC and all that stuff.
You can kind of apply those Windows concepts to security, and it's not just a vague, we talk about setting policies in an operating system. Oh, I just set some policies in an operating system.
Yeah, because we had some labs in the class. So That was really, really helpful.
Fantastic.
The last thing I wanted to mention is just, you're definitely right. You want to make sure you cover all of the topics. Because I was so confident with the CCNT, I went ahead and took the ICND2, the second part of it.
Oh, boy.
That makes it the CCNA.
Yes.
And, I killed it in LAN and routing, but I just didn't take the time to study the management aspect of it, like the software-defined network and the, the SNMP, because I figured, that's only 20% of the test. Well, it just happened that was a huge part of the exam that I took.
Right. Yeah, the Cisco exams do not mess around either. That's one of those exams, and once you answer the question, you can't go back. So you have to get it right then, and then the exam keeps going from there. In fact, you don't know what the actual passing score of the exam is until you start the exam. So it's a weird set of rules they have set up for that. But you're right. You do not mess around with Cisco. Don't think you can walk into Cisco and ace that one very easily. They make it a very hard exam, and I'm glad they do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I said, just anybody listening, man, make sure you study all of the objectives. Don't leave anything out and think that you're just going to be able to skate through it.
An exceptional idea. Well, congratulations on all of those. Best of luck with what you're doing, and keep us informed as you go through that.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you know when I finish the CCNA. I just want to get through this Microsoft server first. So
I don't blame you. Well, congratulations, Adam. Best of luck.
Thanks again. All right, bye.
That's fantastic. One of the things that's always a challenge is applying back what you've learned. It's hard to do that in a video, and I really apply it back. My latest Security Plus videos, I tried to put more case studies in because it's interesting to hear about a type of attack, but when did one actually occur, and what was the result of that? So that's a logic bomb. Who does a logic bomb? Well, let me give you an example. Those things can help when you go through all of those. Let's go back to the phones to 423 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hello, this is Bill Quinton, and I was wondering...
Mr. President, thank you for calling. So nice to have you. Please, what can we do for you today, sir?
So, well, all the government servers in Washington, D.C., they're not really happening right now, but I'm still seeing Hillary's emails.
I think somebody may be stepping on your throat. I'm not sure what's going on there. It was so close. It's as if you were somebody, you didn't have enough air. Is that what it was? It's one of those, something like that. I'm not sure, but it was great to have him call though, wasn't it? Wow. I wasn't even prepared for that. Normally I would think they would call ahead and let you know the president's going to call, but what are you going to do? Sort of the way it goes sometimes. It's the Secret Service. They're busy with other things right now. I get it. And having all of those through the different pieces. Dan in the chat room, this is the after show of the Network Plus Study Group, which means that all topics are open. If you would like to ask a Security Plus question or any other question, you absolutely can do that and have all of those things there. Yes, that's one. Thank you. Somebody at least in the chat room. Oh, you so forgot it. There's some triggers with me. One of those triggers is having somebody with electrostatic discharge talk about connecting to the ground of an electrical outlet and how that triggers me and makes me crazy. On Network Plus, what makes me crazy is the topic of layer 3 switches. That's another one that makes me crazy. So Adam, you'll have to trigger me next time on that one. It does make me crazy when somebody talks about connecting their body to an electrical system. And all of those. So Dan, yes. So Dan in the chat room would like to ask a question about Security Plus. You're more than welcome. By the way, if you are someone on Security Plus, I mentioned the renewals that they're planning to do. Those Security Plus recertification exams are relatively new. They just introduced this on December the 5th, just a few days ago. So if you're somebody with Security Plus, you're wondering, I need just a quick exam I can take to keep my Security Plus, they've got it. And it's one that you can do wherever you are. You don't have to go to a place. They do it on your computer now with this non-proctored exam. Notice it was a non-proctored exam, Pearson IBT, which is not descriptive at all. But obviously, Pearson is doing these non-proctored exams now, where it's one, if you've never done them, they put software on your computer. They make you take the camera of your laptop or the camera on your computer and turn it all the way around the room, and then they watch you as you're taking the test. You gotta have to turn off the picture. Don't watch me. I don't want to know that you're watching me, but they watch you the whole time, and they may ask you, I need to see your hands. You're looking at any notes. What do you have in your hand? It's a whole thing they got, but it's a great thing to have because you don't have to go anywhere. And people have called here before and said, I'm an hour and a half, I'm 2 hours away from any type of training site. I just need to take this exam. It's a 2-hour drive. This solves that problem. So I think that's a great thing that they're doing. So Howard is taking a Security Plus class starting Monday. Congratulations. They're starting in the middle of December. Security Plus class. Okay. Through a training company. And they only offer an ebook. That's kind of familiar. I get it. And a lot of people said they liked the physical books. I used to not have course notes on a physical book form. I just didn't offer them. Not because I couldn't, but because I just didn't. And then a lot of people were telling me, really, Mrs. Professor Messer said, you need to have some. I love a printed book. I love to feel the book. I love to take it places. I love to sit down. It's easier for me to read. Now, she also has a Kindle, so she doesn't mind looking at electronic books, but there's just something about having something printed, and I get that. So if they don't offer a printed book, you may be able to contact the publisher. Find out who publishes the ebook. Contact the publisher directly and see if they have an option for you. The publisher ultimately gets to make the decision on how the content is presented to you. And if you're taking a Security Plus class, you still may be able to get a Security Plus book from another publisher and author because all of the content is going to be very similar across all of them. So you may want to get the GTS Learning book, the physical book. A lot of people like the electronic books, but I get it. Having a physical book makes all the difference. That's why I have physical course note books. And if you get the course notes, somebody was asking this in the chat room earlier, is there any difference in the physical book versus the digital? There's not. In fact, the content inside of this is exactly the PDF. I make the PDF that you download printer ready. So I literally send that exact same PDF to my printer that is in Minnesota. And they print it off for me and ship it directly to you. So I don't even have to do anything. I just put your name in, they send it to you. So that makes it very easy and quick for you to get these. And I can ship anywhere in the world. So it's a beautiful thing. Plus you get the digital version. Maybe that's the best idea. It's kind of weird that people are moving more to the digital version and not giving a physical version these days. I just don't find that to be something viable. You need to have both. You need to provide. You should be making the decision. The end user should be making the decision. You should be able to provide that if you can. It doesn't always work out that way, but it sure helps when you get to that point. Well, we've come to the end of another Network Plus study group. Can you believe it? Another one, the last one of the year. Now, for those of you, a reminder, you usually tune in next week for the Security Plus study group. I do not have a Security Plus study group next week. We're skipping a week. And then the week after that, 2 days after Christmas, we're going to do that Wednesday. Christmas is on a Monday, and then Wednesday, we're doing the Security Plus study group on December the 27th and having those there. So that would be the place to go for all of that. Adam is asking in the chat room very quickly, any new games I'm playing? I've gotten an hour or two in of the latest Diablo season, and that's it. It's just been slammed. I'm doing a lot of video content creation for Security Plus right now, and that just takes up so much time. Hopefully when that's over, a little bit of a breathe, and we can keep it moving from there. Between that and just watching cyber, looking at cryptocurrencies is amazing right now. For those of you not looking at those, it's a weird, wild world we live in. And that's sort of where I'm spending my time, looking at that and just trying to keep up with Security Plus. So if you're wanting to follow us for Security Plus, come back on the 27th. We would love to have you here, and thank you for being here. We loved having you here today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here this first hour and going through the questions. Thanks for your calls. Thank you, Mr. President, for calling in. What a day. Could you ask for more than that? We will see everyone next time on the Network Plus Study Group. Thanks, everyone.